The story opens with an introduction to the spirit of healing, a legendary entity revered for its ability to resonate with all living beings and create miracles. This mystical being is often described as possessing ethereal beauty and immense power, which has led humans to worship it as a goddess. In a remote icy cavern filled with treasures, a being resembling a dragon reflects upon these tales. Given the spirit of healing's awe-inspiring reputation, the dragon wonders if perhaps this legendary figure might be able to heal his cherished creature, Keturus. Resolute in his hope, the dragon performs a summoning ritual, drawing a glowing magic circle in the air and chanting ancient incantations, all while promising to reward the spirit handsomely for its aid. To the dragon's astonishment, instead of the goddess-like figure he anticipated, a black-haired man materializes within the glowing circle. The man appears disoriented, as if he had just been sleeping in his modest room, now suddenly thrust into this surreal encounter. Both the dragon and the man are equally shocked by the unexpected turn of events. The dragon, in particular, had expected an overwhelmingly radiant being of beauty, yet standing before him is a rather ordinary human. However, the dragon quickly suppresses his disappointment, reasoning that appearances matter little compared to the potential power the man might possess. Without wasting time, the dragon bluntly asks the man to lend him his powers. The man, still groggy and confused, wonders if he has died and is now in some kind of afterlife. At this moment, the narrative introduces him properly. Kim Oh-jin, a 32-year-old veterinarian. Kim had previously completed 2 years of pre-veterinary studies, followed by 4 rigorous years in veterinary medicine. Even as a student, he had been scolded by professors for dozing off in lectures, a habit that persisted through his academic career. Eventually, Kim managed to graduate, acquire his license, and work 3 grueling years as a salaried veterinarian. Unfortunately, his experience in the field was far from idyllic. Most clients treated veterinarians poorly, attempting to abandon their pets under the pretense of being unable to afford their care. Eventually, Kim saved enough to open his own veterinary clinic, hoping for a fresh start, but customers remained scarce, and the mounting debt slowly suffocated him. One night, after another long day of frustration, Kim cursed his misfortunes aloud before bed. Overwhelmed by hopelessness, burdened with insurmountable loans, and trapped in a life he despised, he even contemplated ending it all. At that exact moment, his fate took an extraordinary twist. He was suddenly summoned to another world. As Kim awakens in the unfamiliar cavern, he is disoriented and bewildered. He briefly wonders if he might have suffered a heart attack in his sleep. After all, such a peaceful death would have been preferable to his miserable existence. But as he surveys his surroundings, the oppressive cold, piles of gold and jewels, grotesque beasts, an ominous summoning circle all give him the impression that he has been cast into a personal version of hell. Worse yet, despite his new predicament, his debts still linger in his thoughts. In his confusion, Kim directs a question to the dragon, asking what is expected of him now. The dragon replies without hesitation, he needs Kim to heal his pet. Kim scoffs internally, convinced now more than ever that he must be in hell, forced to treat animals even after death. He braces himself, expecting the pet to be some horrific, hellish creature. The dragon, however, gently assures Kim that the creature is quite cute. As the dragon gestures forward, dust begins swirling ominously around Kim, heightening the surreal atmosphere. Finally, the dragon presents his pet, Keturus. Instantly, Kim is able to see detailed stats floating in the air before him, listing the creature's age as unknown and describing its introverted personality. Upon examining Keturus, Kim is alarmed. The bat appears severely malnourished and frail. His professional instincts kick in immediately, prompting him to ask routine diagnostic questions. What is the pet's name? How long the dragon has owned it? And when the symptoms first appeared? The dragon replies that he acquired Keturus only a week ago after attending a dragon's gathering where having a bat as a companion animal had become the latest trend. The dragon, embarrassed, admits that he caught the bat outside his cave, succumbing to peer pressure to keep up with the trend. This revelation infuriates Kim. Such impulsive, trend-chasing pet owners are second on his list of most detested clients. Nevertheless, Kim feels somewhat relieved that at least the dragon hasn't abandoned the poor bat yet. Pushing his frustration aside, Kim asks the dragon if the bat has been eating properly. The dragon proudly declares that he has been providing Keturus with fresh animal blood daily, assuming it to be a delicacy. However, the bat has refused to eat any of it. The dragon assumes his pet is simply picky, much like himself. This assumption enrages Kim even further. Uninformed owners who fail to research their pets rank fifth on his list of worst clients. Kim, struggling to contain his anger, informs the dragon that Catullus is a fruit bat, creatures that cannot, under any circumstance, consume blood. The dragon, flustered, defends himself by saying that his fellow dragons advised feeding bats blood. Kim is pushed to the brink of frustration and corrects him harshly, explaining that vampire bats and fruit bats are entirely different species. Catullus, a fruit bat, requires fruits, not blood. The dragon's ignorance has left the poor creature starving for an entire week. Embarrassed, the dragon finally admits that this is his first experience raising a bat and concedes that he made a grave error. Kim reprimands him further, stressing that taking responsibility is crucial when caring for any living being, no matter how small. He also points out the dangerously low temperature of the cave, which is pushing Catullus toward hibernation. The dragon, sheepish, reveals that the freezing environment is due to his nature as an ice dragon. Kim, exasperated, shouts that if the dragon cannot meet even the basic needs of his pet, he should not keep one at all. Overwhelmed by Kim's scolding and filled with regret, the dragon finally understands the gravity of his negligence. He carefully cradles Catullus in his massive claws, apologizing to the bat for his selfish mistakes and vowing to correct them. The dragon resolves to gather fresh fruit immediately and even contemplates returning Catullus to his natural habitat, recognizing that the bat's happiness and well-being far outweigh his own desires for companionship. For the first time, the dragon acknowledges that true responsibility means putting the needs of the creature before his own pride. Witnessing the dragon sincerely acknowledging his mistakes and expressing genuine remorse softens Kim's perception of the creature. His previously rigid view of the dragon begins to shift as he realizes the dragon is not just an arrogant beast but a guardian capable of reflection and growth. In a surprisingly humble tone, the dragon thanks Kim for enlightening him and helping him recognize his irresponsible behavior. Following this, the dragon, honoring the tradition of rewarding those who assist him, asks Kim what he desires in return for his help. Without missing a beat, Kim blurts out an absurd yet sincere wish to be reincarnated as a rich Arab prince in his next life, or at the very least, as the archetypal wealthy young villain master from the novels and dramas he used to read. His request baffles the dragon, who struggles to comprehend Kim's eccentric fantasies. The dragon, unfamiliar with human cultural references or the nuances of reincarnation tropes, decides to take matters into his own hands. With a dignified air, he bestows upon Kim a magical artifact, a necklace imbued with a fragment of his divine dragon power. Presenting the glowing necklace, the dragon informs Kim that it holds the potential to create anything he desires. However, he warns Kim that the necklace cannot be used to fulfill wicked or malicious intentions. Despite the stern warning, the dragon expresses unwavering faith in Kim, believing that he will not abuse such power. Before Kim can ask any further questions, the ground beneath him begins to glow brightly. The dragon is initiating the ritual to return him to the human world. As the light envelopes him, Kim mutters in confusion, wondering if he truly is in some kind of fantastical afterlife that only exists in manga or manhwa. Suddenly, in a moment of desperation, he remembers his wish and yells out that he wants to go back to the early days of Bitcoin to become a crypto millionaire. However, his pleas vanish into the glowing light as both he and the dragon disappear from the cave. The dragon, now left in the cave, smiles warmly as he cradles Catullus, vowing to feed him fresh fruit from now on. Meanwhile, Kim finds himself materializing in the middle of a bustling street illuminated by a radiant light. As the brilliance fades, a wave of regret washes over him. He realizes that he missed the golden opportunity of a lifetime. He could have asked the dragon to make him the top real estate tycoon or grant him unimaginable wealth. Instead, he is left pondering how exactly he is supposed to make money using a dragon's magical necklace, especially since the dragon had neglected to explain how the artifact works. In a moment of self-pity, Kim concludes that he has been duped, a victim of the world's oldest scam, only this time by a dragon. His thoughts are interrupted when a passerby scolds him for standing in the middle of the alleyway, urging him to move aside. Kim obliges and stumbles into the crowded main street, where vendors and locals bustle about. Another stranger accidentally bumps into him, jarring him from his thoughts. Kim begins to question whether he is still on Earth, or if his surroundings are merely a sophisticated illusion conjured by the dragon. His logical mind leans toward the former, still clinging to the dragon's vague assurances. A cheerful food vendor greets Kim, calling him handsome and offering him a taste of her fruit. Intrigued and seeking answers, Kim strikes up a conversation, inquiring about his location. The vendor, assuming Kim to be a lost traveler, explains that he is in the town of Belmore, situated south of the Doyle barony. The area, she tells him, may lack notable tourist attractions, but it serves as a convenient stopover for travelers, with numerous lodgings and shops. Hearing this, the weight of reality crashes down on Kim. He truly has been transported to another world. Before he can process the situation fully, chaos erupts in the street. A giant rabbit suddenly charges through the crowd, devouring crates of carrots with alarming ferocity. As a rabbit's stats appear before Kim's eyes, he notes that it exhibits heightened aggression when stressed. Panic spreads among the townspeople as they flee from the rampaging creature. Kim, bewildered, asks the vendor if monstrous creatures casually roam the streets here. The woman hurriedly explains that the giant rabbit is, in fact, the pet of Lord Belmore. She urges Kim to run before the situation worsens. As Kim attempts to make sense of the madness, the rabbit spots a young girl sobbing alone in the street and lunges toward her. Instinctively, Kim sprints forward, pulling the girl to safety just as the rabbit's massive jaws snap shut where she had been moments before. Kim curses his impulsive heroism, convinced that rescuing the girl has only placed him in greater danger. But before he can berate himself further, the rabbit charges again. Desperate, Kim thinks wildly about leashing the beast, and to his astonishment, the necklace reacts. A brilliant light shoots forth, manifesting a glowing leash that binds the rabbit. Kim finds himself gripping the leash tightly, bewildered at the power surging through him. The onlookers, hiding behind stalls and alleys, gasp in awe, whispering that Kim must be a magician. The fruit vendor and her younger sister watch in amazement, the little girl excitedly asking if Kim is truly a magician. The vendor, equally stunned, admits she had initially assumed Kim was just another lost traveler. At that moment, Lord Belmore arrives, frantic to locate his runaway pet. Upon seeing Elizabeth, his beloved rabbit, tied up and sobbing, he rushes toward Kim in outrage, demanding to know how he could treat his precious child in such a manner. Kim calmly explains that he had no choice, as the rabbit had endangered lives. The Lord, blinded by paternal affection, insists his pet could never harm anyone and commands Kim to release her immediately. Infuriated by such blind arrogance, Kim fires back, challenging the Lord to put his own head inside the rabbit's mouth if he's so confident. He further mocks the Lord, suggesting he stick his foot inside if he fears losing his head. Kim warns him that Elizabeth's bite strength is powerful enough to crush bones with ease. His fierce words leave the Lord trembling, finally silenced by the harsh reality Kim forced him to confront. The fruit vendor and her sister watch the scene unfold with undisguised satisfaction, clearly enjoying the sight of the pompous Lord being chastised. Meanwhile, Kim's attention shifted toward the visible wounds on the giant rabbit. Doing his best to restrain his irritation, Kim calmly explained to the Lord that long-eared domestic rabbits are not meant for outdoor walks, especially not in crowded or unfamiliar places. He elaborated that rabbits are naturally territorial animals and easily become stressed when exposed to environments outside their comfort zones. Switching into professional mode, Kim asked the Lord if the rabbit had ever shown signs of self-harm or aggressive behavior. As expected, the Lord sheepishly admitted that the rabbit often pulled out its own fur. Kim loosened the leash, explaining that such behavior is a common stress response in rabbits. Ignoring these signs, he warned, could lead to serious health complications and even significantly shorten the animal's lifespan. The Lord, now visibly distressed, anxiously inquired how he could correct the situation. Kim assured him that most of the issues could be managed at home with proper care and knowledge. He stressed that rabbits are delicate creatures requiring more than affection. They demand attentive, informed care. Simply showering them with love was not enough. Understanding their needs was critical to their well-being. Impressed by Kim's knowledge, the Lord presumed that Kim must be a rabbit enthusiast. However, Kim swiftly denied any particular fondness for rabbits, clarifying that his concern stemmed from his professional responsibility rather than personal affection. Overcome with emotion, the Lord confessed that when he told others he kept rabbits, they often mocked him, claiming only young ladies kept such pets. With tearful eyes sparkling with newfound admiration, the Lord asked if Kim worked in the animal profession. Kim confirmed that he was indeed a veterinarian. Immediately, the Lord enthusiastically clapped his hands, commanding his servant to bring forth a token of gratitude. The servant soon appeared, carrying a hefty bag of gold coins, which the Lord presented to Kim in appreciation for his help. The Lord also requested that Kim periodically check on his pet's health, acknowledging how valuable his expertise was. After the rabbit was retrieved by the servants, and the Lord departed, the townspeople emerged from hiding. They praised Kim for standing up to the Lord and finally putting an end to the chaos caused by his unruly pet. The fruit vendor thanked Kim personally, promising him a special discount at her stall. When Kim admitted that he had no local currency, she reminded him that the Lord had just rewarded him generously. Perplexed, Kim opened the bag and retrieved a shiny gold coin, examining it curiously before instinctively biting it. Amused, the fruit vendor told him that it was indeed genuine gold, a currency recognized universally for its value. She scolded him playfully, comparing his behavior to that of a newborn baby. Despite the teasing, Kim had only one thought swirling in his mind. He wanted to bring the gold back to his own world. Realizing the fortune he now held, his eyes gleamed with excitement. Without hesitation, he began inquiring about property prices in the town, resolving to open a second branch of his animal hospital there, hoping to use the profits to finally repay his crushing debts. In a dimly lit room illuminated only by flickering candles, Kim sat at the head of a table, gazing at the individuals who had gathered before him. With a theatrical tone, he thanked them all for attending and announced that he would select one among them today. Dramatically, he declared the start of what he called the game of life and death. Of course, it was nothing that sinister. This was merely the job interview for staff positions at his newly opened pet clinic. Word of Kim's decision to settle permanently in the Lord's town spread quickly. Thanks to the Lord's generous support, Kim's plan to open a second branch of his clinic proceeded smoothly. The Lord provided him with a spacious shop, and although it was cluttered with an excessive amount of rabbit supplies, clearly left over from the Lord's obsession with his pet, Kim wasn't one to complain, especially when it came free of charge. After all, free was free. Now that he had secured the premises, Kim's next task was to kickstart his business. However, he faced two immediate challenges. He lacked sufficient knowledge about the town, and perhaps more importantly, he needed to track down the dragon who had promised to send him back to his original world but instead dumped him here without explanation. To address both issues, Kim decided to hire a local veterinary technician who could assist him both in managing the clinic and gathering information about the place. He quickly prepared a job poster, which he distributed throughout the town. The interview day arrived, and 4 candidates turned up. Seated confidently in his chair, Kim instructed them to begin introducing themselves, starting from the right. The first candidate, a tall and muscular young man, introduced himself as Thomas, the second son among 3 brothers and 2 sisters. He proudly spoke of being raised by a strict father and a gentle mother, claiming to have developed both a righteous character and a strong physique. Kim listened while jotting down notes but couldn't hide his disappointment. This man had no personality whatsoever. In Kim's book, that was an instant red flag. He deducted points immediately. The second candidate introduced himself as Philip. He spoke with confidence, mentioning that his family had been in the animal business for generations. Intrigued, Kim asked what kind of business, only to be startled when Philip revealed that his family ran a butcher shop. Philip even pulled out a knife, proudly claiming that he'd been handling animals since childhood and boasting that few could wield a blade as skillfully as him. Kim rejected him on the spot, mentally noting that he needed to screen applicants more carefully in this strange new world filled with eccentrics. Next was candidate number 3, who had a sly grin plastered on his face. Kim eyed him warily. Still, he held back from making snap judgments. Trying to stay professional, Kim asked if he was nervous and why he wanted the job. To Kim's horror, the man suddenly erupted in a loud declaration that he had been searching desperately for someone like him, crawling closer and closer with a creepy smile. Kim, now fully convinced that people should, in fact, be judged by their appearances, desperately tried to distance himself from the lunatic. Amid the chaos, the 4th candidate, a girl who had been silently observing the disaster, asked calmly when it would be her turn. Kim, trying to keep the weirdo at bay, asked if this was really the right time for that question. She offered casually to help him, to which Kim nodded frantically. Without hesitation, she delivered a clean, powerful punch, knocking the lunatic out cold. She then introduced herself as Selena, a roaming animal expert with skills in basic treatment. Still processing her impressive combat skills, Kim listened as Selena calmly explained her credentials. Recognizing that she was the only competent candidate among the bunch, and perhaps his only hope, Kim hired her on the spot. They shook hands, And just like that, his clinic finally had its first technician. However, the very next day, Kim sat alone in the clinic, seething with frustration. Selena had not shown up for her first day of work. Irritated, he contemplated placing another job poster when suddenly someone knocked on the clinic door. Assuming it was Selena, Kim opened the door with a sarcastic remark about her leisurely arrival after lunch. To his surprise, it wasn't Selena but a customer. The startled customer, confused by Kim's comment, asked if he was supposed to have had lunch before visiting. Realizing the misunderstanding, Kim quickly shifted gears and welcomed the man warmly, offering him a seat. For the first time since opening the second branch, Kim had an actual customer, a crucial step forward in his plan to repay his debts. Kim eagerly offered the man water or tea. The customer, a light blue-haired gentleman, requested tea without hesitation. Kim happily prepared it, feeling a surge of hope that his business might finally succeed this time. He reminded himself that during his time running his first clinic, he had made several mistakes, including berating clients over trivial issues. He recalled how during one incident, a client refused to brush their dog's teeth daily as prescribed, leading to an argument that ended in Kim cursing the client into reluctant compliance. That episode had spiraled into a flood of negative reviews and ultimately contributed to his debt crisis. This time, Kim vowed to handle customers with patience and professionalism. Returning with the tea, Kim sat down and asked the man about his pet. The customer pointed toward his pocket, from which a small lizard peeked out. He introduced it as Podjack. Kim breathed a sigh of relief after the traumatic rabbit incident. Seeing a normal pet was oddly comforting. However, noticing that the lizard wasn't in a cage, Kim, suppressing his initial urge to scold, asked politely why the pet was loose. The man casually replied that it looked cuter that way. That response irritated Kim even more, but his loan-induced survival instincts kept him from lashing out. Despite his efforts, he struggled to suppress his frustration and had to fight the urge to flip the table in exasperation. The light blue-haired man blinked in confusion, staring at Kim, who was visibly struggling to maintain his composure. Kim, forcing a calm demeanor, casually explained that the desk was just a little broken, brushing off his near outburst. Determined not to let his inner frustration surface, he straightened up and turned his attention back to the man, asking why he had brought his pet in. Was it sick? The man replied that his pet wasn't exactly sick, but it was unusually weak and extremely sensitive to cold. Kim nodded knowingly, explaining that such traits were common among lizards due to their cold-blooded nature. The man continued, somewhat cluelessly, mentioning that whenever he grabbed the pet's tail, it would fall off. This caused Kim to grit his teeth in irritation. Restraining his temper, he informed the man not to do that, though he clarified that tail detachment was indeed a normal defensive behavior in many lizard species. Without the slightest hesitation, the man then cheerfully pushed his pet toward Kim, requesting him to make it healthier. The sight triggered an odd sense of déjà vu in Kim, reminding him of his encounter with the dragon who had made the same demand. Kim sighed inwardly, realizing once again that the real issue wasn't the animal, it was always the clueless owners. Distrusting the owner's competence, Kim decided it would be best to perform a thorough checkup himself. The man handed over the lizard, and the moment Kim held it, he sensed something was wrong. After a quick examination, Kim informed him that the pet was suffering from dysectasis, a condition where shedding is incomplete or abnormal. Predictably, the man was utterly unfamiliar with the concept of shedding, his ignorance painfully obvious. Meanwhile, noticing Kim inspecting the lizard's arms, the man warned him to be careful, stating that the creature became aggressive when touched. As if to prove the point, the lizard, now clearly more than just a lizard, began generating fire in its mouth and launched a flame directly at Kim. Reacting swiftly, Selena appeared from nowhere and hurled Kim out of harm's way, grumbling that she couldn't afford to lose her boss on her first day. Kim crashed into the wall. Groaning in pain, he muttered bitterly that taking the direct hit from the fire might have been less painful than crashing into the wall. It finally dawned on Kim that, once again, the animals in this world were far from ordinary. Their first patient was, in fact, a salamander, not a regular lizard. Realizing that the creature couldn't be handled barehanded, Kim cursed his luck and wondered aloud if they had a fireproof suit available. Selena, seizing control of the situation, questioned the man about how he came to possess the salamander. The man innocently revealed that he had found it while hiking in the mountains and, captivated by its appearance, decided to keep it as a pet. With a cheeky grin, he even asked Selena if she was jealous. She flatly denied it and sternly explained that salamanders were wild creatures and that capturing them was illegal due to their dwindling numbers caused by overhunting. Her words sent the man into a state of panic. Realizing the implications, he wailed that he couldn't bear to part with his beloved pet. Selena, attempting to calm him, clarified that while it was illegal to keep a salamander, if a clinic held it temporarily for medical treatment, the authorities would likely overlook it, provided it was released afterward. Ignoring her reassurances, the man suddenly bolted, tears streaming down his face, shouting that he couldn't say goodbye to his pet. Kim, who had been preparing the treatment tools, looked up just in time to see the man fleeing. Shaking his head in disbelief, he grumbled, "What is wrong with that guy?" Selena, watching casually, shrugged and joked that maybe the client had decided to go home. Kim snapped at her, pointing out they hadn't even started the treatment yet. Fixing her with a cold glare, he demanded to know why she just stood there watching him escape. With a look of panic, Selena stammered out a rushed, "Yes, sir." The scene then shifts to the bustling streets of the town. The fruit vendor from earlier tends to her stall cheerfully, her mood noticeably brighter. Ever since Lord began playing with his pet rabbit in public, her life, like many others, has become much more pleasant. Lost in her joyful thoughts, she is suddenly distracted by the sight of a man sprinting down the street, being chased by Selena and Kim. Kim, exhausted and breathless from running, lags behind. The fruit vendor, though confused by the chaos unfolding before her, decides it's best not to meddle in other people's affairs. The man being chased, a young man with light blue hair, is crying as he runs. He has no idea why these two are pursuing him or why they're trying to take his pet. In his mind, it's a test, a trial he and his beloved companion must overcome together. Hearing his dramatic monologue only fuels Kim's frustration. He shouts, exasperated, "Stop running. Your pet needs to molt." After what feels like an endless chase, Kim finally collapses, gasping for air. Selena, barely winded, suggests that Kim should exercise more often. She then turns serious and asks, "Are you sure the salamander hasn't molted yet?" Kim nods and explains, "It's overdue. It's already built up more than 3 layers. It has to come off quickly." Selena's expression shifts instantly. "We need to find it. Fast," she says, her tone urgent. She explains that if a salamander is unable to molt properly, internal fire begins building within it. Once the heat becomes unbearable, it leads to a violent rampage. The scene cuts back to the light blue-haired young man, still fleeing. Selena explains further that a salamander's rampage isn't just destructive, it's dangerous. It can destroy everything around it and even harm its own owner. Hearing this, Kim's face darkens. Realizing the gravity of the situation, he gathers his strength and rushes off to find the runaway. Meanwhile, the light blue-haired man finally reaches his home. He rushes inside, believing that Selena and Kim won't chase him this far. He places his pet lovingly on the table and smiles. "No one can separate us now," he whispers. Feeling inspired by the intense events of the day, he searches for paper. He's had a sudden idea for a song. Unaware of the impending danger, he hums to himself while rummaging through drawers. Behind him, Salamander begins to glow ominously. Flames gather in its mouth. Its breath grows unstable. The young man, still cheerfully looking for paper, finally turns, only to be met with a sudden explosion of fire. The room fills with smoke and dust. Coughing and disoriented, the young man rises from the floor, only to find his home engulfed in flames. Panicked, he turns to his pet. "Was this you?" he asks, heart sinking. "Did I do something to upset you? Why would you burn everything?" Realizing the danger, he moves cautiously toward the salamander, intending to escape the house. But instead, Salamander opens its mouth and fires another blast of flame directly at him. He freezes, unable to believe what's happening. "We're family," he thinks. "Why would you hurt me?" Just as the fire is about to hit him, Selena appears and yanks him out of the way. Kim follows immediately, grabbing the salamander. "Is it really rampaging now?" he asks. Selena nods grimly. "It's gone completely out of control. If we don't stop it soon, the fire it releases will become even more destructive." Kim struggles to restrain the salamander. "How are we supposed to calm it down?" he says, his hands tightening around it. Then he mutters, "We should at least have a fire extinguisher." As if on cue, a glow emanates from the necklace around his neck, and a fire extinguisher materializes in his hand. Without hesitation, he sprays it at the salamander's face, dousing the flames and covering the creature in white foam. Salamander finally begins to settle down, its breathing steadying. Kim, just to be sure, sprays it again. Huh, he mutters. This necklace is more useful than I thought. He uses the extinguisher to put out the remaining fires in the house. Selena then turns to the young man and asks gently, "Are you all right?" But the young man doesn't answer. His eyes are fixed on his pet. "It wasn't its fault. It was just a rampage," he whispers. "I understand now. I'll take better care of it from now on." His words pierce through Kim. His expression shifts from concern to anger. "That's all you have to say?" Kim demands. "You nearly burned down your house. What if the fire had spread to your neighbors? People could have been seriously hurt." The light blue-haired man stammers. "But I said I'll take better care of it now." Kim exhales deeply, trying to control his temper. "That's not the point," he says. "Don't raise wild creatures carelessly. They have their own environments, their own needs." He continues, "Bringing them into your life just because they're cute, without understanding their nature, isn't love." Then, Kim asks the final, piercing question. "If it happens again, if the salamander goes on another rampage, can you honestly say you'll be able to stop it next time?" The young man falls silent. He has no answer. Kim continues to guide the young man with a stern but sincere tone. "Affection alone is not enough to raise a life," he says. "Love must come with understanding and responsibility." The crisis eventually comes to an end, and after some time, the group heads into the forest to release the salamander, now fully molted. The transformation is striking. The creature appears healthier, stronger, and noticeably larger than before. As they observe it, Kim tilts his head curiously. "How does a body that big fit inside such a small shell?" he wonders aloud. Selena, also amazed, shrugs. "It's just one of nature's mysteries, I suppose." Beside them, the light blue-haired young man, still emotionally attached to his companion, looks heartbroken. Watching the salamander prepare to return to the wild, his eyes begin to well up with tears. "She doesn't need me anymore," he murmurs. His voice trembles as he steps forward and gently speaks to his pet. "Be happy, okay? I'm letting you go because I love you." Fighting back tears, he adds, "I'll come visit every day and bring you food." But Kim immediately stops him, shaking his head. "Don't do that," he warns. "If you keep feeding it like before, it will forget how to survive on its own. The wild requires instinct and strength. It can't depend on you anymore." At that moment, the salamander turns and bolts into the forest, disappearing into the dense trees. The young man collapses to his knees, sobbing. "We'll always be together, in my heart." Seeing his pet leave so suddenly makes him even more emotional. Selena, trying to comfort him in her own blunt way, says, "Look, salamanders don't even understand the concept of a master. To her, you were probably just the servant who fed her." Those words only make him cry harder. High above, on a cliff overlooking the forest, the salamander pauses. Then, in a grand display, it unleashes a magnificent flame into the sky, causing sparks to erupt and form dazzling firework patterns across the clouds. Seeing the fiery message, the light blue-haired young man lifts his head in awe. His tears slow, replaced by a small but genuine smile. "She's amazing," he whispers, his heart finally at ease. With that, the treatment of Kim's very first patient, salamander, is complete. The following day, the scene shifts to a lively plaza where the light blue-haired man now strums a guitar, performing with a small group of musicians. The crowd listens eagerly. During his performance, he introduces himself for the first time. "My name is Roy Shah," he announces, "and this song is dedicated to the one who healed my beloved friend, the man who triumphed over the Lord's rabbit." Selena and Kim watch from the audience. Selena chuckles and informs Kim. Turns out Roy Shah is actually a popular bard. Kim looks confused. "This is what they call a bard?" he mutters, not particularly impressed by the song's lyrics. "I don't even like the lines." Yet despite Kim's opinion, the crowd around them seems thoroughly entertained. Everyone cheers and claps, praising Roysh's performance and wondering aloud about the mysterious animal doctor who helped the salamander. Some even begin asking where they can find the doctor to get their own pets checked. As those words reach Kim's ears, his expression changes instantly. His eyes sparkle. almost glowing with golden ambition. Maybe this song isn't so bad after all, he murmurs, grinning to himself. A few days later, Kim's humble veterinary clinic is overwhelmed with a sudden wave of new customers, pet owners from across the region, all hoping to meet the animal doctor they heard about in Royce's song. Watching the growing crowd, Selena turns to Kim and sighs dramatically. Should I just go ahead and resign now? The next morning begins with a line of clients already gathered outside Kim's clinic, all waiting eagerly to have their pets examined. Inside, Kim looks utterly exhausted, the toll of endless customers clearly showing on his face. He finishes checking the pink-haired woman's pet, gives her some advice, and recommends that she return next week for a follow-up appointment. As the woman happily exits the clinic, Selena glances at Kim and quips, "At this rate, you'll turn into a corpse before next week." Kim groans but replies with determination, "We have to earn while we can." Selena raises an eyebrow. "At this condition, maybe you should try living while you can." Kim ignores her sarcasm and asks, "Who's next?" It has been 2 months since Kim arrived in this world, and ever since Royce, the bard, released his song, Kim's second clinic has been booming. The first few days were overwhelming, even for someone as capable as him, but when he saw how much they had earned in just one day, he finally felt a sense of relief. As the clinic prepares to close for the day, a customer arrives, knocking hesitantly on the door. Selena is about to turn him away, but Kim stops her. "Let him in," he says with a tired smile. "I mean, who doesn't love money?" Treating pets every day, Kim gradually learns more about the creatures of this new world. Surprisingly, dogs and cats are still humanity's best friends here too, though their breeds are just a little different. Feeling the fatigue in his bones, Kim stretches his back and rubs his aching shoulder. Selena flips through the appointment list and informs him, only one patient left. Kim asks, "What kind of pet is it?" "It's a shaman," Selena replies. "They used to be hunting dogs, but recently became trendy as household pets. Sadly, people often abandon them because they tend to be aggressive toward anyone other than their owners." Hearing that, Kim scowls. People who get pets just to follow trends should be wiped out. Selena continues, "Shamans can grow as tall as a human's torso. Their claws and teeth are sharp enough to pierce a wild boar's hide. So be careful." The client enters and opens the dog's cage. Kim braces himself, expecting a monstrous beast to emerge. But instead, a small, fluffy pup waddles out, barely 2 months old and adorably harmless. Kim slowly turns his head to glare at Selena. "Oh," Selena says sheepishly. "Did I forget to mention it's still a baby?" The client, unfazed, explains, "He's been limping since yesterday." Kim blinks. Where are this thing's legs? He wonders. He gently picks up the tiny shaman and begins examining it. At only 2 months old, it should be perfectly fine, but then he notices something. "A thorn," he mutters, spotting a small splinter lodged in its paw. Kim carefully removes the thorn, disinfects the wound, and assures the owner he's fine now. The shaman immediately perks up and starts running around excitedly. Kim watches the pup and thinks to himself, it's like a woolly ball of energy. A smile forms on his face. Selena, watching from the counter, raises an eyebrow. Once the client leaves, she leans in and asks, "So, was that smile because the dog was cute, or because work's finally over?" Kim shrugs. "Why do you care?" Selena smirks. "It's just rare to see you happy for a reason that doesn't involve money." Kim lets out a soft laugh and admits, "I was just relieved none of today's patients were seriously hurt. That's all." He sits back down, his expression turning more reflective. "The hardest part of being a vet," he says quietly, "is seeing animals suffer every day. The more I care about them, the harder it gets. So I try to stay detached, but I'll never forget the day a pet owner left her sick dog with me for a whole month, just so she could go on vacation." After a pause, Kim rises from his seat. "Anyway, we're closing soon. Let's wrap things up." Selena glances outside. It's already getting dark. "Yeah," Kim nods. "We had a lot of customers today. If you want to go home early, you'd better help me clean up." He walks toward the window and peers outside. The sun's almost. Suddenly, he stumbles backward in fright. An old man is staring at him from the other side of the window. Startled, Kim whispers to Selena, "Can you do exorcisms?" Selena, matching his tone, replies, "Only if physical violence counts." The old man opens the window and leans inside, making Kim jump. Then, without warning, he grabs Kim's arm, pulls him outside the clinic, and disappears into the distance. Selena stands frozen, watching them vanish. What just happened? The old man leads Kim deep into the forest, apologizing profusely along the way. I didn't realize you were so out of shape, he says, slightly embarrassed. I didn't think climbing a hill would be this hard for you. Completely out of breath, Kim wipes sweat from his forehead and mutters, "Who even are you?" The man straightens up and introduces himself. "My name is Schwein. I'm an administrative civil servant for this territory." He gestures toward the path ahead. "I brought you here for a reason," he says seriously, then bows deeply. "I heard you even managed to calm down the Lord's rabbit. That's why. I need your help." Kim raises an eyebrow, still catching his breath. "Help? With what?" Schwein looks up. "There's a stray dog we need to capture." Before Kim can respond, Selena arrives at the scene, arms crossed, and clearly unimpressed. "We're not an animal rescue team, you know," she says flatly. "I'm a veterinarian, not a dog catcher," Kim adds, clearly annoyed. But Schwein bows again, more desperate this time. "Please, you're our only hope. We're running out of time." Seeing their confusion, Schwein begins to explain. About 2 months ago, a dog wandered into the middle of the mountain and took over a key spot. Unfortunately, that location is right where our new trail is supposed to be built. He lets out a long sigh. "We tried to catch it, but it was too fast. No one on my team could keep up. And now, construction is scheduled to begin the day after tomorrow. If we can't remove it peacefully by then, the military will be sent in." Kim frowns. "You mean, if they decide the rescue is too difficult, they'll just kill it?" Schwein nods solemnly. "Yes, the moment it's labeled as a threat, it'll be eliminated." Kim's eyes widen in shock. He hadn't expected the situation to be this serious. "I beg you," Schwein pleads. "Please help us. There's not much time." Kim remains quiet for a moment, weighing the situation. Then he finally speaks. "I've never captured an animal before, but I guess I'll have to at least see it first to understand what I'm dealing with." Schwein's face lights up with hope. "Thank you. That's all I ask." Kim pushes himself to his feet, brushing off his coat. "All right, I'll take a look." From the side, Selena watches with a deadpan expression. He's absolutely doing it, she thinks to herself. Schwein eagerly guides them up the hill to the dog's location. Along the way, he explains, "What's strange is that the dog never leaves that spot. Day or night, it just stays there." When they finally arrive, both Kim and Selena freeze in surprise. The stray is not just any dog, it's a shaman. Selena crosses her arms and mutters, "I told you, didn't I? These dogs were once bred for hunting, but now they're just trendy pets. People raise them like fashion accessories and abandon them just as quickly." The three of them stand before the stray dog, quietly observing. Kim assumes the dog must be malnourished after surviving alone for over 2 months. But just as he takes a cautious step forward, a sudden howl echoes through the trees. Startled, Kim freezes. Was that a monster? He wonders aloud, eyes scanning the woods. Then, without warning, the dog begins barking furiously and charges toward him. Reacting instantly, Selena grabs both Kim and Schwein, pulling them back just in time. Kim yells, "Don't turn your back on an aggressive dog. That's more dangerous." Selena scowls. "So what? I should have let it bite you instead?" Still catching his breath, Kim looks back at the dog, expecting it to be in pursuit. But to his surprise, the dog stops at a specific point and turns around, returning to the exact spot it had been sitting in before. "That's strange," Kim mutters. "Why would a hunting dog stop chasing like that?" He watches intently as the dog resumes its guard-like posture. "There's something off. It chased us aggressively, but only up to a certain boundary." Selena shrugs. Who knows what dogs are thinking? Especially a stray. Schwein finally speaks. "That's what it always does. Charges like that to scare people off. We've had constant complaints from villagers." Kim narrows his eyes, thoughtful. "Complaints?" "Yes," Schwein nods. "People report a large hunting dog scaring them on the trail. They say it's dangerous and demand we remove it." Kim pauses, then asks, "Has anyone actually been hurt?" Schwein hesitates. "Well, no. Not a single injury has been reported." That catches Kim's attention. He starts piecing things together. Turning to Selena, he asks, "Shamans, they're fiercely loyal to their guardians, right?" She nods. "Exactly. Once bonded, they're known for their unwavering loyalty. Then maybe, Kim says slowly, this dog isn't just guarding a random place. Maybe it's waiting. Selena raises an eyebrow. You think it was ordered to stay? That would explain a lot, Kim says. It won't leave the spot. It only chases people away, not out of malice, but protection. Night falls, and the next morning Kim and Selena travel to the nearby village at the base of the mountain. Selena looks around and sighs. Why are we here instead of tracking the dog? Kim answers, because our goal now is to find the dog's former owner. Selena doesn't get it. Why waste time on that? Let's just set a trap. It looked starved. Bait should work. But Kim shakes his head. If food was enough, it would have left by now. That dog is a trained hunter. Hunger isn't what's keeping it there, loyalty is. He clenches his fists. Some people, they command their dogs to stay and wait, knowing they'll never disobey. Then they just walk away. Disgusting. Kim's voice hardens. If I find that kind of owner, I'll punch him myself and drag him back so he can see the pain he left behind. They begin asking around, but most villagers seem more annoyed by the dog than anything else. No one knows who owns it. Tired and discouraged, Kim sits down, rubbing his temples. Maybe the owner wasn't from this village, he murmurs. Selena agrees. One thing's for sure, no one here likes that dog. Just then, a brown-haired woman approaches them. Are you two looking for the dog's owner? She asks softly. Kim looks up, surprised. You know them? She nods. You're the first ones to ever ask about Jake SSI. She leads them far from the village, into the quiet outskirts. Along the way, she explains, Jake liked his solitude. He lived far from the village, so very few people knew about him. They arrive at a small, weathered cabin. Kim raises his hand to knock, but the woman gently stops him. He's not here, she says, pointing to a simple grave beside the house. Jake SSI passed away 2 months ago. There was a landslide. He lived alone with his dog, but he was a warm, kind man. Kim stands in silence, the truth slowly sinking in. There was no one else. The woman continues. I held the funeral myself. The villagers blamed the dog, thinking it was abandoned. But Jake didn't abandon him. He just never made it back. She looks at them, eyes pleading. I tried to bring the dog back here, but it wouldn't come. It's been waiting ever since. His name is Max. Please help him. Kim lowers his head in mourning and whispers, I'm sorry for misjudging you. Then, looking toward the mountain, he promises, I'll save Max. No matter what. As evening falls, the scene shifts back to Schwein at the base of the mountain. He paces nervously as a group of armored soldiers arrive. You're early, Schwein says, surprised. Our mission ended ahead of schedule, one of the soldiers replies. So we came early to handle the stray. Schwein tries to delay them. Can't we do it tomorrow? We're working on a solution. But the soldiers are unmoved. No need. The locals hate that dog anyway. If we take care of it today, no one will complain. Schwein's eyes widen in horror. The soldiers begin preparing their weapons. And the clock starts ticking.